Hello and welcome to Jumping the Wagon, a review of modern pop culture. I'm your host, Samuel, and today we'll be reviewing Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. But before we get into that, please like and subscribe. We are at Missing the Wagon on YouTube, Patreon, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And then this show will be on the Missing the Wagon channel on YouTube and also on Spotify. To start off this video, just like the last Jumping the Wagon, the first half will be, or the first part of the video will be non-spoiler, and then the second half will be spoiler. For the non-spoiler part of this movie, just thoughts about the movie in general before. There wasn't as much hype for this movie as there was for Spider-Man Brand New Day because, of course, one is a multi-billion-dollar superhero property, and this is a quote-unquote low-budget horror film. But just suffice it to say, I didn't have high expectations of the movie. I didn't think it would be a bad movie. When I think about things that go to the Cannes Film Festival or Sundance, I never really picture, these are bad movies. I usually just picture these are movies that they're more art house style, where there's more hideous subjects, and the artist, instead of having to deal with a studio that says maybe add this or do this or go through rounds and rounds of test audiences and changing the opinion and this and that. It's just, there's one person that get to sit down and write, and they get to then direct and have a cohesive vision all the way through. But yeah, I didn't go in expecting, I was like Citizen Kane, but I feel Citizen Kane is an okay movie. But yeah, I didn't expect the world, but I was like, this should be a fun experience. With the theater itself, it's a nonprofit theater, which I did not know when I went. And they have a lot of art house films in the theater. I believe they're also showing things like The Odyssey in 35 millimeter instead of the standard and whatnot. But yeah, like they have a few movies that I hadn't seen much trailers or advertising for. There's one called Onslaught, which is like a movie where the trailer was like, hey, there's these guys who are literally made to be killers, and that's all they are. One of them is Alex Pereira from the UFC, so I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting. That's a fun action film to see. There's another one that was called Tony, that's supposed to be about Anthony Bourdain, and I was like, oh, that's fun. Once again, I haven't seen watching YouTube or watching other streaming services or even seeing normal television. When I see commercials anywhere, I haven't seen any trailers for those two movies. And I was like, oh, hey, that's okay. Like, I'm watching a smaller released film because I believe Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, I don't think it's getting a worldwide release. I believe it's getting limited releases in different places. And I was like, that's really cool to see that this theaters like, hey, we know that these are going to be the people that would see these kind of see these kinds of films, so they advertise those trailers. Then there was a movie advertised called The Devils, which I had never heard of, and look at the trailer. I'm like, there should be a blinking light or strobing light disclaimer. Then also, because I'm talking about a different movie, but I'm just going to get into this. The Devils of Loudon is the name of the book. And then the 1971 movie was rated X. So lots of countries just banned it. Lots of countries didn't show it. I think the US and London rated it X. And I think the budget on it is like $1 million to $2 million, and it made 11 million worldwide. So it is a hit technically. Like, even on the standard of, we gotta say advertising's twice the budget. I'm like, yeah, if it's $4 million and you guys made 11 million, that's a hit. But yeah, it's a story. The Devils is a story about a charismatic priest who is being blamed for witchcraft by people, but he does not do witchcraft technically. It's just sexually repressed nuns, and people are using their sexual repression and like mass hysteria as a reason to get him removed or killed before political reasons, so they can put someone in power that they wish to control. So it's like, once again, movies I've never heard of or seen. They're like, oh, hey, you should watch this and this and that. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So that was really nice. The concession stand at this theater was even cheaper than normal theaters. So I was like, oh, this is double nice. Love that. And the audience I was with, once again, I usually go to like AMC's Carmike or Regal cinemas, so I'm not used to this too often because I see a bar typically at those theaters, but I don't typically see too many people buying them because, hey, commercially stuff might have a bar, but we're not gonna go drink from it. A lot of people actually had actual like little bits of food and alcohol, and I was like, oh, I'm not used to smelling alcohol in a movie theater. Maybe that's a normal thing because I know there are other theaters where it's like they can give you full menus for food and whatnot. But I was like, oh yeah, I'm not used to that. But everyone wasn't there was no belligerent people or anything. It was just like, oh hey, let's sit down at the art house and watch this cool new film. Um, to speak on the movie, from the trailer and things that could be known from watching that and not going too far into it, the trailer for this movie is phenomenal because it doesn't give you too much context of what's happening. It gives you some good shots, it lets you see some of the main characters and how they're moving throughout the movie, but it doesn't over explain anything. It just gives you the context you need to pull you into the story. And I was speaking to someone a while ago, and I was saying how my one of my biggest issues with the MCU and other major motion pictures is how, one, they give you like 3, 4, 5 trailers for a movie. But then after doing that, I'm like, there's no surprise, there's no intrigue. It's just, I know what I'm going to see usually when I walk into it. And this trailer for this movie didn't do any of that. And I was like, oh, phenomenal. I'm actually kind of in the dark. So I can actually just be in the story and try to figure out what's going on. In the trailer, there's this amazing mountain background with snow and pine trees and whatever. That's in the movie. And now, small spoiler, it is only in the movie that one time. That is it. But it does look amazing. Like, literally, it's like they spent the most money on that shot because that shot, they sit on it for like 10 seconds or so, where you're just seeing this beautiful mountain-esque scene. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So that's in there. From the trailer as well, most of the trailer shots are from the first half of the movie. And I've already given them their credit and kudos for not spoiling or adding too much context or whatnot. But yeah, so that part is enjoyable. And it's kind of hard to speak more about the movie without spoiling because the movie has lots of stuff that where you need like more in-depth context. If this were the Weekly Planet and I was Mason trying to explain the plot of the movie without spoiling it, it would be a writer is going to talk to an actor who is recluse now to try to, one, get get their blessing, but kind of get their blessing for making a new film. But also, the writer kind of wants this actor to be back in the movies, either as a cameo or either as a star. So then it's just the interactions of this writer and this star as they meander about a camp. And I was like, but yeah, that's the movie. Like, if that's the picture would be like, this is a look at people making art as we are watching the art unfold. Now, this will probably be the last section of the non-spoilers, but I would suggest, if you like horror movies, if you like art house movies, I would say you should go see this movie. It might give you a slightly different perspective than average horror or slasher films. And then it could also give you a perspective of how some artists see and view their work and how they see and view their life through the works that inspire them and give them ideas. But yes, I would say go see the movie. The problem is this movie's kind of hard to find, and with limited release, you might have to wait. If hopefully it's successful enough, maybe it'll be on streaming, maybe it'll be on DVD or Blu-ray or some such. But yeah, I would say if you are a fan of horror, if you are a fan of psychological drama, I think you should watch the movie. And now it's time for spoilers. In the trailer, there is an intro to the movie where the more films they make, the more VHSs pop up. You can see the titles and whatnot. That is like the first 10 minutes of the movie, where it's Friday the 13th esque, where it's like, hey, it's Jason. Jason lives. Jason strikes back. All that stuff. So they have all of that, and then they have like a Friday the 13th arcade game remake of Camp Miasma. They just have a bunch of paraphernalia of the movie that's made for the movie. And I was looking at it because there is a thing as well where they're talking about the success of the first one, and they have all these newspaper clippings about how successful and how popular it is. And it made me laugh because I have this thing in the back of my head where for lots of newspapers and movies, they reuse the same old newspaper with the same articles about stuff. And in this movie, they actually took the time to retype the articles, and they are actually about Camp Miasma and its like rocket to popularity. When it gets to the back half of the opening montage, it's about how Camp Miasma has dropped off and how it's not as popular anymore, and how it's not bringing in the money. But I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, one, someone had to sit down and make all of these VHS tape covers, but then someone also had to make the wind up toy of the main antagonist, and they had to make all the posters and the newspaper clip. I'm like, man, that's really cool work. I really like the touch of it. Um, the mountain scene, like I said in the beginning, it's a beautiful mountain shot, but for the rest of the movie, it is a matte painting. It is a matte painting of trees and snow. And as I was telling somebody, I'm not mad about this probably lower budget film having a matte painting of trees and snow. For me, I'm just like, once again, I don't. There is a shot at the end where our female lead is running outside in like half naked clothes on a mountain. So, and I was telling somebody, I'm like, I much rather that be on a soundstage with fake snow rather than it be actually outside with snow. But I'm just like, hey, man, like, couldn't we, like, man, like, can we do something to have, like, a beautiful shot of a mountain and then make we overlay them or something? But I was like, once again, I didn't make the movie, so, I can't. There's not much I can say. Hey, man, I don't like that you guys use the money and technology at your disposal to make the movie work as best as you could. Like, no, that's how it goes. Chris walks into the camp. Well, she drives into camp, and she goes into the theater hall that's on the camp, and she goes and starts touching a film reel and film, and she starts playing a movie. And I'm like, I hate to be that guy. Aren't you here to talk to a lady about like helping you, like getting back into the film industry and whatnot, and your first thing to do is to walk onto her property and start touching her stuff? I'm like, no, don't do this. That's no good. And Chris has a funny bit where she's watching a movie and she's getting enthralled in it because she's enthralled. And she stops looking at the movie and nearly looks like directly at the camera and says, "Oh, this would be the time for the jump scare." And then Billy walks from the shadows wearing her outfit to be like, "Yeah, like I thought it'd be right to scare you." And I'm like, "Hey, buddy, no. No, these are two wrong actions. A stranger came into your land and started touching your stuff without permission, and then your response is, "I'm gonna scare you here." I'm like, "No, these are wrong actions. these are the wrong way to interact with these things." But that's what they do. Billy then, in like, it's daytime when she gets up there, when Chris gets up to the cabin, but then when Billy gets like when Billy and her talk, it's nighttime, and Billy's like, "Oh yeah, I had to go do a fast food run because they don't deliver out here and blah blah blah." And she's like, "I got KFC." Now, the problem I don't have is the KFC. It's whatever, man. KFC probably sponsored the movie, which is why they're so prominent in it. But also, my problem is Billy was putting like she has like two 10-piece buckets and whatever, and she's putting them on a platter with her bare hands, like it's cool and normal. But it's not cool and normal. Don't do that. And then Chris, because she's so obsessed with the movie and whatever, she's looking at the screen. Oh, sorry, she's looking at Billy's Christmas tree, and then there's like a poster for the first Camp Miasma movie, and Chris is all enticed by it, and Billy comes in and talks to her about it, and she makes a joke where she's like, "Little Death is coming. Little Death will be revived," and she starts laughing, and she's like, "No, like I'm not some crazy loon. I'm messing with you. It's whatever." But before she does this, she's putting the chicken on a platter. She licks her fingers because we see her do it. Then she comes over, talks to Chris, and then goes back to start putting food on a platter with her bare hands that she just got done licking. And I'm like, my man, my man, no, like this is a stranger. Why do you think they want your spit on their food? But two, you live in there are utensils. Just get some tongs. Just get some tongs and like put the chicken onto a platter. Which then the scene after her talking to Chris and making the joke about being a crazy person and Little Death being real and all that stuff. They sit down, and for people who are going to see the movie, there is literally like a 3 or 4 minute scene where they're chewing and eating food, and the sound is the highest it is in the movie, and because the sound is highest in this movie for 3 things: breathing, chewing, and the sploosh sound of stabbing a spear into people. That is the loudest sound editing in the movie. So it's just like, yo, I understand, but I don't. In my art film, I don't need 2 or 3 minutes of people just silently chewing, and then you just hear. And I apologize for people listening. I apologize for that. But that's what happened in the movie, and it happened for much, much longer. And I'm just like, yo, because my problem wasn't the loud chewing. I don't care. The problem was we saw this goofball old lady with 2 buckets of chicken, and she's pulling them out with her bare hands, and I'm just like, no, that's not nice, that's not proper. And then when you go to the next scene, Billy and Chris are sitting down at a table, and from a shot in the middle is the platter of chicken. Close to them on both sides of the platter are 2 bowls of sides. And when you saw the earlier shot with Billy taking the chicken out, you didn't see any KFC bowls of sides. So either Billy made sides, which I don't believe, or Billy had sides and we just didn't see them in the shot. And I'm like, what, did she hide them in the... I'm like, no, that's not how that works. She just like... And the sides are in her own bowls. So she had to take them out, but we didn't see the bowls. But then they're eating tenders. And I'm just like, wait a minute. So you took all this time to remove the chicken from the buckets to put them on a platter just for you guys to not eat any of the sides that we didn't see in the earlier shot. And for you guys to not eat any of the pieces of chicken, you guys ate chicken tenders. You didn't even need to touch your hands all over the chicken because you didn't even eat it. And also, we don't come back to see them eat anymore. It's legit just like, hey man, I'm going to touch this food with my bare hands and put these sides in a special bowl. We're going to eat tenders, and that's it. And for this scene, you're going to look at us, and you're going to hear us munch, munch, munch. And I'm like, hey buddy, that's not cool. That's not okay, but that's what happens in the movie. So I was like, okay, cool, that's what we're doing. Then for the next scene for me, Chris and Billy go to the theater to watch the first Camp Miasma film together. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Now, I think Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma is an hour and 52 minutes. I believe that for like 20 minutes of this film, we watch another film. And that's not a joke. You like legit, for a good portion of the film that we are watching a different film. And I'm like, wait, so I'm like, I'm like, that's kind of cool. Honestly, that you guys had to shoot technically 2 movies and make it into 1 movie. But my brain's like, wait a minute. Like, also, because we're in spoiler section, there's not much there's not much slasher horror in the actual movie. And what I mean by that is, in the Camp Miasma movie there is, because there's this phenomenal scene where Little Death is awakened and he goes around killing everybody. It's one of the kills in the trailer is one of the best kills of the antagonist, where he like stabs a guy through the torso and then he like bangs his body against a flagpole until the body explodes. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then there's just a scene where Little Death is just like, it's like dancing almost, like with dancing with the spear, and it's like going around stabbing people and cutting people with the spear and whatnot. And I was like, and I was thinking in my brain, I'm like, well, I think Freddy's a pedophile, and Freddy like comes back in dreams or whatever to hurt kids, and then Jason, he comes back and kills counselors because they let him die. Well, in the first movie, his mother did that. Then he came back and did it, and cause for Missing the Wagon, we reviewed Friday the 13th, the first one, and it really frustrated me because there was actively a counselor there who heard a child crying in the dead of night, raining, and all she had was her nightgown on. And even though she could get hurt or she could not be okay, she went out of her way to make sure the child that was crying was okay and safe. And then she still get attacked by Pamela. And I'm like, yo, like, shouldn't you want that lady alive? Shouldn't you want a person who's willing to put themselves second and be able to be like the safety of the kids first? Shouldn't you want that person alive? And she's like, nah, none of that. Step. I'm like, why are you stabbing? Why are you stabbing folks? Especially ones that you want. Like, you're mad that your kid got drowned because camp counselors weren't doing their job, but now there's a camp counselor here who's going to go above and beyond to make sure kids are okay, and your response is like, nah, step. I'm like, no, that's not okay. So then we have that scene where Little Death does all the murder and does all that stuff. Lots of the murder scenes are like comical, and not comical in the way of like haha funny. It's comical like, hey, he cut off a head and it literally sprouts like a 20-foot fountain of blood out of their body somehow. Stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Then I thought I had also was Billy has an old school projector and old school film, and this is just me personally because I don't know. Isn't there a special maintenance you have to do to make sure the film projector keeps working and the film doesn't like dissolve or something? Because for me, I don't not to be mean, I don't see this old lady doing that. This old lady can't even use utensils to move chicken from a bucket to a platter. I don't see her taking extra time out of her life to maintain an old film projector for some movie that she's been in. Because like she's only been in the first one, she wasn't in all the sequels or anything. So I'm like, I don't like maybe she gives this movie special care because it's like hers. But for me, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. This is the same old lady who is going to jump scare you for watching it because, fun bit. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't see the finger licking, hey, I'm going to try to convince you I'm crazy lady, putting time and effort into maintaining a bunch of old technology. Because later on in the movie, the power goes out, because of course the power goes out. And the power goes out, and when Chris is like outside or whatever, we come back inside, and Billy has lit, somehow, hundreds of candles. And one, I'm upset, because these are wooden cabins. But two, you're telling, and because like, Billy says a thing, and she's like, oh yeah, the power went out again, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, wait a minute. So you bought this property, you know the power goes out, you're not near any emergency services, and you didn't buy a backup generator. Like, not to be mean, if you can buy all this land, buy 2 backup generators, my man. Why do you have hundreds of candles? And then, I don't know the timing and spacing, but really does seem like that you shouldn't be lighting hundreds of candles in mere seconds. I don't know how you would have done it, but she does. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm guessing that's what we're doing. Then there is drug use in this movie. They smoke the wacky tobacco together, and they do it 2 times, I think. And then there is a third scene where Chris does it by herself. Then she comes out topless and is like, I want to do sex stuff with you, Billy. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. I didn't see that coming, but it happened. And then Chris and Billy, I'm not laughing at the thing. I'm genuinely laughing because I'm partly uncomfortable. They both talk about how doing sex stuff with people, they dissociate, and the only time they could orgasm was when they could dissociate enough to where they could see themselves. And I'm like, yo, my man, that sounds like trauma. And then it sounds like the way you dealt with your trauma is by actively dissociating hyper heavy. And I'm like, man, I know that like slasher films have a lot of dumb, bad elements, especially ones from the 60s, 70s, and 80s and whatnot. But man, I was not expecting two women to just look me in the face in a movie theater and look and just be like, yeah, man, I have heavy sexual trauma that makes me dissociate during sex. And I like sex was never comfortable for me and I never liked it. And the only time I did like it is when I could dissociate enough to where I'm far enough away. And then the only time I can actually feel the most pleasure is when I dissociate enough to where it's like a part of me is dying and I'm watching myself be in the pleasure. And I'm like, yo, not what I was expecting from this movie. So once again, there's probably a deeper meaning if you talk to the writer and the people in the movie. And that's very fine. It's art. Art is actively subjective. I'm just giving objective takes. That's actively what happened. That's actively what looked at me. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, man. I wasn't expecting that. So then Billy and Chris are doing stuff together. And Billy and Chris, because Billy tells Chris about that's what happened. Like when I was doing it, I pictured myself as Little Death coming up to stalk me and blah, 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 blah. So then we see Little Death come into the room. Chris sees herself and she's like, yeah, I'm in Little Death's eyes, blah, blah, blah. And then her and Billy get stabbed through with a spear as Chris is climaxing. And for me, I thought that was the end of the movie. I thought the end of the movie for this art film was going to be like, oh, hey, we thought the murderer wasn't real. We thought Billy was being crazy, but Billy actually knew the murderer is real. We gotcha. But no, the murderer isn't real because at the end of if you look at the poster for this movie, the poster is Billy and Chris covered in blood. And for me, I thought that's what we're going to see. I thought we were going to see a movie about a writer going to talk to this older person, and then we were going to find out, oh, hey, this murderer is real. Like, no one believes in the murderer, but then the person that started in the first movie and hadn't started any other ones found out they were real and had interactions and blah, 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 and then we're going to have be a thing where maybe some more people come up, like maybe another writer, maybe some more crew or whatever come up to maybe get some location scouts and whatever come up, and then we have to have a whole movie to where we're fighting this antagonist that we thought wasn't real. But no, it's not that. It's like that stuff happens. Then there's a part for me that just makes me uncomfortable slightly, and it's so Billy and Chris go to a gas station. They're talking and they're like buying food or whatever, and Chris is still like Billy and Chris are both covered in blood, and like Chris is in her underwear. And like they're just talking, bebopping around town. Cashier says, I like your outfit. Billy says, I like your hair, which is a callback to the beginning of the movie. When when the cashier told Chris that she likes her hair, but Chris didn't respond, she just kind of smiled. And I'm like, hey, look at that. Someone said they liked your hair back. That's nice. But then like Chris and Billy are like walking hand in hand and whatever. But like there's 4 or 5 kids at the gas station, like with water guns playing around, and I'm like, hey, my man, this is just me personally. I don't think you should be walking around in your underwear around these kids with the water guns or whatever. Now, that makes me uncomfortable. But because my brain was just trying to think of like, if I had to go subjective, it's like Chris put herself into work. So then, like, she didn't enjoy the pleasures of life. So then her enjoying the pleasures of life the way Billy showed her is like a little death, which is like, oh, that's the name of the character. And she had to like give up a part of herself to be comfortable doing this new thing. Because also in the scene, because there's a scene where Chris is running and they're doing stuff, and like all of the associates you see her talk to in the movie get killed by Little Death. And then like Little Death come and stab her and Billy, she climaxes all that stuff. And I was like, oh. So I'm like, but yeah, this seems like a story of overcoming sexual trauma and whatnot. But you know, it's still kind of heavy. So I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. I don't think it's the worst movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I do believe, me personally, that one, I was unsatisfied with being forced to watch a movie in another movie, because once again, we're just watching a slasher film, and I'm like, it's not a bad film. The thing that really bugged me about it, genuinely, was I was just like, yeah, I was expecting a horror slasher that maybe had some more psychological elements to it, but technically it's more of a psychological movie where a person's like learning of themselves and like becoming a different person and understanding what they like and don't like and viewing the world in a different manner. And I'm like, oh, that's not a bad movie, but like once again, when I look at the not IMDb, when I look at Google or other websites and I look up the name of the movies like horror slasher, and I'm like, if I take out the little death stuff, or if I take out the part that's 20-30 minutes, that's literally the Camp Miasma movie, is legit just a lady talking to exec, talking to an old actor, speaking of her trauma, trying to overcome her trauma, and then overcoming it at the end. That's literally a movie. And I'm just like, hey, it's not a bad movie. I can't pretend it is. But for me, I'm just like, yeah, like it's not really a horror slasher film in traditional sense, but there is definitely horror slasher kills and stuff in it. So once again, enjoyable movie, 3.5 out of 5, but not bad. And that is our show. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment and review. 5 stars, please. And tell everyone you know about the podcast and about the YouTube. Thank you for listening.